Riddle me this. Why do puzzles in D&D suck? For something that's meant to be a core part of the exploration pillar, puzzles can drag sessions to a screeching halt and leave players feeling bored and confused. So how do you create puzzles that are challenging, but also fun and a memorable part of exploring your campaign world? My name is Ben Byrne, and this video is going to fix puzzles in your tabletop RPG campaign. A good RPG puzzle contributes to the story of your adventure rather than interrupting it to make the players quickly solve a riddle. For example, you must search a cemetery for a dead warrior and the legendary weapon that they're buried with. The headstones are etched with the achievements of those buried beneath them, but some of the engraved names and deeds have faded with time or grown over with moss. You must find the grave you're searching for by matching what you've been told about this legendary warrior with the faded carvings on their headstone. Reading other gravestones will give you clues to finding the right grave, but might also reveal more about the campaign world. And by finding the right grave, you might learn new things about the warrior you're searching for. Puzzles should be interactive rather than static. A riddle on a door basically blocks progress until it's solved. It's a binary pass or fail type obstacle. In the graveyard, the players can read as many headstones as they like to piece together clues to find the right grave. Or they could exhume a body to cast Speak with Dead. There could be other treasures to uncover in other graves. Spirits of the graveyard might be curious or aggressive. Or the gravekeeper themselves might be able to provide clues to you and your party. There's lots to explore in solving this puzzle, so the players never just feel stuck scratching their heads waiting for somebody to come up with an answer. And there's many new elements that you as the GM can introduce or improvise if progress does come to a halt. This graveyard puzzle is dynamic with multiple possible solutions. The graveyard also encourages teamwork and sharing ideas between players. The barbarian might need to be the one to exhume a grave so that the cleric can cast Speak with Dead. This puzzle is encouraging players to use their characters' skills and abilities. It's not purely dependent on if any of the players are clever enough to solve a riddle. A bard could make a performance check to attract spirits with a gloomy melody, but then the rest of the party must fight hostile specters while the curious spirits are being questioned. Logic puzzles that rely less on the characters' abilities can be fun for some players, but they're much more likely to result in the party getting stuck if they can't solve the riddle or the logic puzzle. Therefore, puzzles that do require a bit of thinking from the players should be intuitive and not too difficult to solve. Just like hitting the like button beneath this YouTube video is also an easy puzzle to solve. Video games are great inspiration for tabletop RPG puzzles because they often sit on that knife's edge between being so difficult the players get stuck, but also being so easy that the puzzle feels redundant. Simple obstacles like a door frozen over by ice requiring fire damage to open, or a bridge that only extends once enough weight is placed on a tile, can create quick puzzle-like encounters that feel rewarding to solve without halting the story or being too difficult. And these obstacles still have multiple solutions and encourage using character abilities, like using an athletics check to break through the door instead, or teleporting past the frozen door. And they can continue to story build. If there's a frozen door in a place that isn't cold, what magic or creature exists on the other side of that door? So in short, puzzles should provide story, be interactive and explorative, have multiple possible solutions, encourage teamwork and the use of character skills, and be intuitive and rewarding to solve. So with all of that in mind, let's look at heaps of examples. Visual puzzles are really tactile and interactive. Your players get to slide pieces into place, match things together, or look for clues hidden on a physical object. A visual puzzle is often literally a puzzle, where an image is created by assembling separate pieces. And you can make this simply by cutting up an image on strips of paper if you want. The players must put the strips in the right order to complete the image, and once they finish, the paper flips over to reveal a hidden message. Or perhaps you can create a puzzle from broken pieces of foam, and you can paint it grey to look like an ancient and shattered stone tablet that must be reassembled. You could also create a visual puzzle made of concentric circles, which need to be rotated to complete an image. Doing so might unlock a door or activate a bridge. A visual puzzle can encourage teamwork between your players as they fit the pieces together. And because they're easy and quick to complete, visual puzzles usually don't bog down a story by taking 20 minutes for your players to think through and try to come up with answers for. Just don't go overboard. Nobody sits down to play D&D hoping that they're going to get to solve a 500-piece puzzle instead. Visual puzzles can also add to the storytelling of your campaign world. What is the image that the party creates by solving the puzzle? Does it hint at what lies on the other side of a locked door? But visual puzzles don't have to just be reassembling an image either. You could provide text excerpts from a poem or a message that need to be reassembled in the right order. Or you might give each player an image during a long rest representing a dream their character has. Each image is a premonition with visual clues in it about an upcoming challenge or puzzle. The players must describe their dreams to each other. They're not allowed to show their image to another player. And through this conversation and again teamwork, perhaps the players deduce the next location their adventure will take them, or help them decide upon another course of action that they should take. Visual puzzles are super fun if you like making props for your game. But if you're tired of spending hours making physical props for something your players will solve in a couple of minutes, you could instead create your visual puzzles with assets from this week's video sponsor, Arkenforge. I've used Arkenforge to make rotating circle puzzles, dungeon crawls using Fog of War, and combat encounters with dynamic lighting where the monster could only be harmed when the players could see it standing in a radius from a light source. You should check out the Dark Fantasy Construction Kit, which includes ready-made digital maps with dynamic lighting, line-of-sight barriers for suspense, and immersive animations, which are set up to be used in Foundry, Roll20, or the Arkenforge toolkit itself. There are thousands of digital assets to build your own dark fantasy maps, create soundscapes, or craft mood images, and legions of horrific monster and gothic PC tokens. Want to use Arkenforge to publish your creations? The publisher tier gives assets in PNG format with a commercial license to make your own adventures with. If you're planning your next campaign for a gothic fantasy world like Grimhollow or Ravenloft, hit the link to be notified of the Kickstarter's launch. Exploration puzzles require players to explore a dungeon or region to unlock an obstacle, which therefore advances the story. For example, a door could be magically locked and requires 5 keys to open. These keys are scattered in accessible parts of the dungeon for the characters to go and collect. To open the door, your party must explore the dungeon to capture these keys, each of which might have its own challenge or combat encounter to overcome first. The puzzle doesn't require a lot of brain power. The adventure also doesn't feel like it's halted by the locked door because the players still get to explore and discover new areas and face new challenges. You can also control the pace of this puzzle. Maybe the players only need to collect 2 or 3 keys instead of all 5 before they can unlock the door. And this also gives them a little bit more choice about what areas they go and explore because they don't have to go and see everything. Of course, the keys could be anything from actual keys to maybe an energy source that powers the door, or puzzle pieces that need to be collected and arranged in the door, creating a visual puzzle. Exploration puzzles are not always about locked doors or collecting things, but they should be about exploration using the character's abilities to overcome the puzzle. The graveyard example from earlier was an exploration puzzle because it encourages the party to explore the graveyard in search of the correct grave. Exploration puzzles are great for players that don't enjoy solving riddles or working their way through a logic puzzle. They're inherently interactive and don't feel like they interrupt the adventure. Here's another example. The party enters a chamber with no other exits. though a perception or arcana check can tell that the far wall is a sort of solid illusion. If all light sources are extinguished, the far wall disappears, but so does the entrance behind the party. The characters discover that as they proceed through this dungeon, light and dark reveal and conceal secret doorways throughout. The characters must frequently create and extinguish light to find hidden rooms and passages. And the dungeon is also branching, so the party can explore in different directions as they search for a way out of this strange, shadowy place. And once they learn how this dungeon works, you can then start playing with their expectations to create new challenges. After entering a room with no light or exits, the party might turn on a lantern expecting it to reveal a doorway. Indeed, the far wall vanishes to show an exit, but so does the floor in this room, which was covering a spike pit. Maybe the roof disappears when the light changes and drops a monster down on top of the players. Exploration puzzles can also be much simpler. A room is filled with noxious spores that inflict poison damage or whispering voices that cause psychic damage. Nothing is blocking the path through this room, so the adventure doesn't grind to a halt, but can your players find a way through without taking too much damage? Look, if this is starting to sound like the exploration pillar of play, that's kind of exactly it. You should stop thinking of puzzles as conundrums that players have to stop and solve, and instead think of them as challenges that your players need to engage with and overcome. That said, if your players do enjoy traditional puzzles, you can mix in some brain teasers as well. Cypher puzzles are great for role-playing games because they're not difficult. It's just a matter of matching symbols to letters to spell out a message to your players. But they do scratch that part of the brain for players who like solving brain teasers. The pitfall of Cypher puzzles is that it can result in one or two players working to solve the puzzle, while the rest of the group sits waiting and maybe role-playing among themselves. But Cypher puzzles can be a great base to build a more explorative and complex puzzle on top of. Provide 4 strips of paper that need to be decoded, allowing your players to decode one each or work in pairs if they like, and then share their findings between each other. These messages are also word jumbles, so once the players decode all the letters, they then need to keep working to unjumble the words. Then the phrases need to be put in a specific order, so the players need to discuss what orders they want to try. Puzzles like this start to take on a kind of escape room vibes, where there's stages that the players have to go through. Your party enters a hag's hut and needs to brew an elixir vital to your quest. Inside the hut, you find an ingredients list, but it's written in some arcane language that needs to be deciphered. Assuming no one can cast comprehend languages, 1 or 2 of you decipher the ingredients while the rest of the party search for the named ingredients from among the hag's belongings described in the hut. Can the mask of a dead thing perhaps be found among the torture racks where flayed humanoid skin is said to be tanning? Does the jar of pickled fingers among the potion ingredients count for a freshly cut finger, or will one among you need to sever a finger yourselves for the elixir? This puzzle requires language deciphering, exploration of the hag's belongings, and teamwork as you decide whose character has to slice off a finger. The elixir also calls for a spellcasting focus, which a character could sacrifice or try to find from among the hag's possessions. And the cauldron needs to be heated by magical fire, requiring someone to spend a spell slot because a cantrip isn't powerful enough. This puzzle is more of a group activity rather than just a brain teaser, and that's what you should be aiming for when designing your puzzles. Another type of puzzle is the monster hunt, where your party gathers clues about a creature they're tracking for the purposes of making it much easier as an adversary to fight. Monster hunts are extremely explorative puzzles, and this video explores how to create entire quests about hunting monsters that are fun and engaging. Or you probably missed some vital rules changes in the new D&D 2024 rules and should watch this video to make sure you catch up.